think being a police officer means routine patrols, peaceful shifts, but the reality is far different. Behind every siren, every chase are stories full of drama, sometimes even life or death moments. Tonight, I'm going to tell you a true story about a confrontation between the law and the darkness, where a police officer had to make a life-changing decision in the blink of an eye. Story 1. The fateful chase. When peace is shattered. That night, I still remember every detail clearly. I was a night shift police officer in Buffalo, New York. The job seemed routine and peaceful, but in an instant everything can change. And that was the night I faced a dangerous tense chase that ended in a tragedy no one ever expected. Around 12:30 a.m. in July 2024, I was on patrol with a colleague at an intersection in the suburban area. The street lights were dim and the space was filled with the quiet of a summer night, only interrupted by the occasional sound of a car passing by. Suddenly, a black car with tinted windows sped through a red light. We immediately stopped our car and signaled for the driver to pull over. I approached the vehicle, my flashlight cutting through the misty windows, and saw a young man, a little nervous, and a child sitting in the back. The man quickly rolled down the window, stammering, "This is my nephew, he's 6 years old. The car belongs to my sister." The little child whispered, "It's my birthday today," and he even offered some cupcakes as proof. I asked to see his license, and he showed me a Georgia state driver's license on his phone. But when I checked it on the system, the information didn't match. I started to feel that something was wrong. The man began to act more nervous, even more awkward. Suddenly, the car sped off at high speed, ignoring my command to stop. In an instant, I grabbed the open door, placing one foot inside. The child's scream echoed in the silent night, tearing through the darkness. My heart pounded, cold sweat streamed down my face as the car accelerated. I screamed at the driver, "Stop the car now, you're going to kill me." But he only responded with cold silence. With no other option, I drew my gun and fired 5 shots. The sound of gunfire rang out sharply between the distant buildings. Finally, I released my grip on the door and fell onto the cold asphalt. The driver also fell groaning in pain on the road, but the car kept going, the child still sitting there panicked and screaming. I turned on the radio calling for an ambulance, then ran after them. Fortunately, the car finally stopped, and the child was not seriously injured. I embraced him, whispering, "You're okay. I'll protect you." The look of panic and fear on that little face still haunts me. After the incident, I was taken to the hospital with minor injuries from the fall. I was given administrative leave while the incident was investigated. My colleagues found the gun hidden under the driver's seat, and later the identity of the driver was confirmed: Devon Roberts, the half-brother of a young boy who had tragically gone missing 4 years ago. Behind the brutality of that night was a much sadder story. Devon could not accept the loss, spiraling into a dark path that made everything turn tragic. But what I couldn't forgive was putting the young child in that deadly danger. I still wonder if I hadn't clung to the car door. Could things have been different? Would the child have been injured or worse? I can't erase that image from my mind. The scream, the look, and the fear in the child's eyes when I was forced to shoot at the man driving recklessly. That night, I learned a lesson about the fragile boundary between life and death. A police officer's job isn't just about catching criminals, but also protecting the innocent even in the darkest of circumstances. And no matter what, life is always more precious than anything else. Story 2. The violent confrontation at the hotel. When peace turns into a nightmare. Being a police officer often means you never know what's coming, and that was the night I faced a situation more insane than anything I could have imagined. A 911 call about a woman losing control in a small hotel in Strawsburg, Virginia, led to a series of tense and horrifying events. It was the night of December 17th, 2023, when I had just started my job and was still inexperienced with the harsh situations on the field. Around midnight, an emergency call came through to the dispatch center. A woman was causing chaos, destroying property in the Rada Hotel. I was assigned to respond and investigate. When I arrived, the area around the hotel was eerily quiet, with only dim yellow lights reflecting off the puddles of water. The hotel door was ajar, and inside I could hear loud banging and indistinct screams. Entering, I was met with a chaotic scene. The woman was barefoot, her hair disheveled, her eyes wild. She was smashing objects in the lobby, throwing phones, and tearing apart the floral decorations. I calmly called out, "Ma'am, please calm down. I'm a police officer. I'm here to help." But she only screamed louder, charging at me with terrifying frenzy. In that moment, I drew my taser, trying to subdue her. But she wasn't slowing down. She even wrapped the taser wire around my neck. The struggle began, and I felt her unnatural strength and uncontrollable madness. She struck me with a baton, and the attack was so intense that I had to pull out my handgun to protect my life. But then she disappeared like a ghost into the night. I called for backup, continuing the search through the dark hallways, but all I found was screams and shadows in the void. The police and medical personnel arrived shortly after. The woman was taken to the hospital, but the tragedy didn't end there. Her name was Melissa Tompkins, 40 years old, homeless, suffering from mental illness and addiction. After several days of treatment, Melissa passed away due to severe injuries. The news shocked the community when it was revealed that she left behind 5 young children. I still can't forget that night. The wildness in her eyes, the frantic screams, and the feeling of helplessness when facing a person completely out of control. Being a police officer isn't just about fighting crime. Sometimes it's about facing the heartbreaking tragedies of humanity, and Melissa's story is a reminder of the fragility and complexity of life. Even though police work can be dangerously unpredictable, we always strive to protect and help others, especially those souls crying out in the darkness. Story 3. The fateful night on traffic duty. A terrifying encounter with a fugitive. Being a police officer is never easy, especially when you're up against people who won't hesitate to use violence to escape the law. That night, I had an experience that still makes my heart tighten whenever I think back on it. I was a police officer working in Montana. This job wasn't a passion for me, but the only option when I couldn't pursue my dream of becoming a professional actor. On the night of April 17th, 2014, while on patrol, I noticed a red sedan swerving on the road like a drunk driver, nearly colliding with another police vehicle. Immediately, I turned on the siren and flashing lights signaling for the car to stop. The sedan slowed down and pulled over to the side, and I approached the passenger side. At this point, all 4 people in the car complied, raising their hands except for a man sitting right in front of me. He seemed to be trying to hide something. I shone my flashlight directly into his face. The moment felt strange as I realized this was Richard Ramirez, not the infamous serial killer, but a dangerous criminal wanted for a robbery involving a firearm and shooting in Billings, Montana just a few days earlier. As I called for backup, this man secretly pulled something from his pocket. Without hesitation, I drew my gun and ordered, "Put your hands up or I'll shoot." He didn't comply. In an instant, I pulled the trigger. 5 shots rang out. Ramirez collapsed onto the road, writhing in pain. I quickly ordered the other passengers to get out of the car and lie down. My colleagues arrived at the scene to assist. Fortunately, no weapon was found in the man's pocket, only drugs. After the incident, I went into a state of emotional turmoil. Taking a life, even with justification, still left me mentally devastated. The criminal's family later sued me for excessive use of force, but the court ruled that I was not guilty, citing legal self-defense. I also received numerous threats online, but with the unwavering support of my colleagues, I gradually overcame it. On those dark nights when the sound of gunfire still echoed in my mind, I understood one thing: the lives of law enforcement officers are never meant to be easy, and sometimes they come at the cost of our very souls. This story is not just about one night, but a deep reminder of the quiet sacrifices and pain in a job that few ever see. Thank you for following tonight's story. These terrifying moments are not only real, but also a reminder that in the darkness there are silent battles still being fought, and justice doesn't always come easily. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bells so you won't miss the next thrilling stories. See you in the next storytelling session, where the darkness still holds many mysteries yet to be revealed. Over!